Dreams are the strangest universal experience we all share, yet the one we barely understand. We've decoded ancient languages, photographed atoms, and drilled into rock older than dinosaurs, yet the bizarre worlds your brain builds every night remain a mystery. Even with all our technology, we still have no idea how millions of people, who will never meet, never speak, never even know each other exist, still dream nearly identical events. The same falling sensations, the same slow-motion running, or the feeling of being chased by someone you can't escape. For decades, scientists thought dreams were nothing more than useless brain noise. But if dreams are meaningless, then why does your brain paralyze your body during REM sleep? Why does it use so much energy creating immersive simulations while you lie in the dark? And why do babies dream in the womb before they have any memories of this world to dream about? Whether we like it or not, the rabbit hole of dreams is far deeper and far stranger than anyone expected. Because dreams don't just happen. They build. They move through levels. And the deeper you go, the more the rules of reality start to bend and dissolve. Today, we're diving into all 7 levels of dreams. From the first sparks of visual static to the terrifying depths where you think you woke up, but realize you're still dreaming and can't escape. Let's begin. Level 1, the hypnagogic gateway. Before your dreams even start being about anything, your visual system has to let go of waking reality. As you fall asleep, many people see quick flashes of shapes, grids, honeycomb patterns, spirals, tunnels, or pulsing webs of light. This in-between state is called hypnagogia. It is a transition zone where you are not fully awake, not fully asleep, and your brain is starting to shut off external input, while the visual cortex is still firing. Those patterns, lattices, cobwebs, tunnels, spirals, are so common they have a name in neuroscience: form constants. They show up in dreams, hallucinations, and psychedelic states because the visual cortex has built-in wiring that tends to fire in those patterns when it is stimulated in a chaotic way. Instead of showing you a coherent scene, it just outputs its raw static. Your brain is basically running a self-test of the visual system before loading the full simulation. There is a practical reason this gateway exists. Your visual cortex is extremely valuable real estate in the brain. When it is not used for a long time, neighboring regions can start to repurpose it. So one theory says that visual dreaming helps keep that cortex active at night, so it doesn't get stolen by other functions. In hypnagogia, you see the stripped-down version of this. Unstructured noise with no characters, no story, and no you. It is like the loading screen before the game actually begins. Level 2, the dreamscape void. Once the random shapes settle down, your brain starts to assemble an environment. You suddenly find yourself somewhere. A house that feels like your childhood home, but the hallway is wrong. An endless mall that looks familiar, but slightly off. An empty street under an overcast sky. There are almost no people yet. No real plot. Just a place. This is what we can call the dreamscape void. It is not empty because the brain is lazy. It is empty so it can project emotion onto it. In art, negative space is the blank area around an object that shapes how the whole picture feels. Dreams do something similar. A huge empty airport corridor, a quiet parking lot at night, or a half-furnished apartment gives your brain a big canvas where it can let a mood fill the space. Loneliness, anticipation, dread, nostalgia. Under the hood, the brain is starting to pull memories, especially ones that are emotionally loaded. Emotionally tagged memories are stored with help from the amygdala, the threat and salience detector, rather than just the hippocampus, the fact librarian. At this level, those memories are not replayed as full scenes. Instead, they act like emotional paint. The brain quickly rough sketches a landscape and lets the underlying feeling leak into it. You are walking through an empty place, but what you are really walking through is an unspoken feeling given a vague shape. Level 3, primal emotion. In the third level, the environment is still relatively simple, but the emotional intensity goes up. The dream starts to be less about where you are and more about what you feel, often without a clear cause. You might be in a slightly blurry room or a version of your house, but the main experience is a heavy mood. Panic for no reason, huge relief without context, grief, desire, or a sense that something is off, but you can't say what. This is where the brain is bubbling up raw emotional material from deep memory. Instead of presenting a neat, this happened, then that happened story, it pulls the core feelings: fear of being abandoned, anger from a conflict, anxiety about being judged, longing for something you never got, and pushes them closer to the surface. There is still very little language or logic available, because many parts of the prefrontal cortex, which handle reasoning and narration, are still mostly offline in REM sleep. So the brain processes emotion in its native format: wordless, intense, and sometimes chaotic. If you have ever had a dream that you barely remember except for "it was awful" or "it was strangely peaceful," you have seen this level. The details vanish when you wake up because they were never the point. The point was the feeling itself. The dream at this stage is like a pure emotional rehearsal. What does this fear feel like? What does this loss feel like? What does this desire feel like? Before the brain wraps it in a recognizable scenario. Level 4. Metaphorical plots. At level 4, dreams start to look like stories. The feelings from level 3 get turned into situations, but the logic is emotional, not realistic. The brain begins to amplify one central theme: identity, desire, fear, loss, or conflict, by building a narrative around it. Think of some very common dreams. You are late to an exam you never studied for. You keep packing for a trip, but you can never finish. You are trying to get to the airport gate, but it keeps moving, and you miss the flight no matter what you do. These dreams are not about exams, suitcases, or airports. They are about anxiety and unresolved tasks. The brain takes the raw tension and says, "Fine, we're going to exaggerate this into a scenario where you are eternally unprepared." Another example from this level is the school assignment dream. Even if you graduated years ago, you suddenly realize you have a huge project due tomorrow, or there's a class you forgot to attend all semester, or you're about to take an exam for a subject you didn't even know you were enrolled in. The brain takes that stress and turns it into a dramatic storyline about missing deadlines. The theme isn't really about school, it's the fear of not being ready when it matters. What makes this level tricky is that the plots are not meant to be literal messages. They are more like emotional metaphors. The brain uses familiar elements from your life: school, offices, family, bathrooms, to stage exaggerated versions of whatever you are struggling with. When these dreams repeat with slightly different settings, it usually means the theme has not been fully processed yet. So the brain reruns the emotional simulation with new props. Level 5. Autonomous agents. By level 5, dreams start to feel like they are happening to you rather than coming from you. Other people in the dream, strangers, family, coworkers, or completely unknown figures, begin to behave as if they have their own agenda. The setting can still be weird, but now the important thing is that you are dealing with characters who do not simply mirror your wishes. The classic example is the chase dream. You are running away from someone or something, and no matter what you do, you cannot get away. Your legs feel like concrete. You try to sprint, but move in slow motion. The hallway stretches, the door won't open, or you fall just before you reach safety. You are putting in full effort, but the dream says, "Nope, you're not escaping today." This is not just your brain being sadistic for entertainment. The threat simulation theory of dreaming suggests that your mind rehearses danger scenarios so you get better at dealing with threats. In that framework, the relentless pursuer is less a villain and more a drill instructor for your fear circuits. The figure chasing you can represent different things depending on your life: a conflict you are avoiding, a responsibility you keep postponing, or a part of yourself you do not want to acknowledge. Neurally, this fits with the idea of attractor networks, stable patterns of activity that keep reappearing in different forms. Once your brain has built a strong pattern for being hunted and cornered, it can be reused whenever you are dealing with any situation that feels like that, whether it is debt, illness, social shame, or an actual physical threat. At this level, you also get recurring people and places. The same mysterious coworker who does not exist in real life but appears in dozens of dreams. The same weird house with too many rooms. The same city you have never visited but keep exploring at night. These are composite agents, built from bits of memory and reinforced every time they reappear. They become like recurring actors in different episodes to work through long-term emotional themes. Level 6. Fragile lucidity. Level 6 is where awareness begins to cut through the script. Here you realize, at least for a moment, wait, this is a dream. That realization is called lucidity. But at this level, it is unstable. You know you are dreaming, but you do not have full control, and your awareness can flicker in and out. One very uncomfortable version of this is the nightmare where you notice how absurd something is. The walls melting, the sky changing colors, the fact that you are suddenly back in high school, but instead of waking up, you stay stuck. You think, this is a nightmare, I should wake up now, and nothing happens. You might try to scream, move your body, or open your eyes, but the dream keeps going. Brain-wise, lucid dreaming seems to involve partial reactivation of the prefrontal cortex, the area that handles self-awareness and logical monitoring. In normal REM dreams, that area is mostly quiet, which is why you accept ridiculous things as normal. When it flickers back on, you start to doubt the reality of what you are seeing. But the motor system is still under REM paralysis, and the rest of the dream generation machinery is still running. Another common fragile lucid experience. You confront dream characters. You tell someone, "You're not real. This is my dream." In some reports, the character shrugs and disappears. In others, they get angry or become more threatening, almost as if the dream is pushing back against your attempt to take control. A simple way to understand that is that the character is not just a random extra. It is carrying a piece of emotional content the dream is trying to process. When you attack it, you are essentially attacking the unfinished issue it represents. This level is where people often feel the most psychologically disturbed afterward, not because the dream was the scariest, but because the boundary between me and my nightmare briefly broke and they still could not change the outcome. Level 7. Nested realms and false awakenings. The deepest level is where awareness and reality testing get seriously tangled. False awakenings and nested dreams. In a false awakening, you wake up in your room, start your morning routine, and only later realize you are still dreaming. In nested versions, this can happen several times in a row. Each time feels more realistic than the last. One familiar example is the "I already did this" daydream. You dream that you wake up, get dressed, commute to work, answer emails, drag yourself through an entire full workday, then finally come home ready to relax, only to actually wake up and realize the entire thing was a dream and the real workday has not even started. Your brain has just run a full simulation of your daily routine while you were supposed to be resting, then hands you the bill in the morning. Another example sits between this level and the earlier bodily signal dreams. You dream you finally find a toilet, use it, feel relief, and then wake up and realize your real body is also mid-pee process. In milder cases, the brain wakes you just in time. In harsher ones, the dream bathroom and the real bed are unfortunately synchronized. This happens because the brain is getting real sensory input from the bladder, but the reality check system is still inside the dream. Nested nightmares combine fragile lucidity with repeated false awakenings. You realize something is wrong. Tell yourself you are dreaming. Wake up in bed. Feel relief. Then notice a detail that is off. The room is slightly wrong. The clock shows an impossible time. You realize you are still dreaming, panic, and wake up again. This can loop multiple times, sometimes with each layer getting a bit closer to reality. The worst case is when, in one of those layers, you are fully aware it is a nightmare. You cannot control what happens, and you cannot wake up on command. That creates a sense of being psychologically trapped inside your own simulation. From the brain's perspective, one possible explanation is that your awareness and your sensory input are slightly out of sync. REM sleep, brief micro-awakenings, and partial muscle paralysis overlap. The mind keeps flipping channels between dream layers and incoming real sensations until they match well enough for a stable waking state. Subjectively, that feels like waking up over and over, only to discover the universe is still under construction. And if you want to go even deeper into the hidden psychology behind your mind, the next video on screen breaks it down in a way you've never seen before.